Greetings, welcome back to Friday 13th YouTube channel. Today you're going to be watching an interview with US power metal band Halloween, not to be confused with Halloween. Now these guys have been around for many years, probably about the same time as Halloween. So check out this fantastic band. It's been an honor interviewing these guys. So thanks for watching. Take care and please share on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And thanks to the guys out of Halloween. You guys rock. Thanks for watching, Metalheads. Hi guys.
Where'd you find that shirt?
I got it from Pure Steel Records in Germany.
And the backdrop.
I stole that from the internet.
We had a backdrop, but look how cheesy it looks.
So, how are you guys doing anyway?
We're tired, but we're doing good.
I bet you're tired. You've been a long flight from Detroit.
Well, yeah, and some of us had to work the whole day before we got on the plane. So.
Oh, shit.
Well, we lost Jason. Jason's sleeping.
Right, it's not a problem. I'm gonna sleep soon, so don't worry.
He's going to sleep and not coming out.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you guys for doing this interview for Friday 13th. This is the first time we've done an interview. Now, George, we've been in touch before, as well as you, Brian. You know, by email and stuff, so we know each other pretty much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you for doing the interview. This is the first interview, and as you know, Friday 13th has been around now since 1988.
Can you turn the volume up?
It's as loud as it can go, sir.
I'm deaf. You might have to speak up.
No,
yeah, we made George ride on the engine of the plane. So
no, I was just saying that Friday 13th has been around now since 1988.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
One of the longest lasting fanzines, I think, on the planet.
So we've both been in the game for a while.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to ask you guys some warm-up questions first. I mean, you guys formed back in 1983. Obviously, Brian and George, you're the original members. So how's it been for you guys since you formed? I mean, you've done quite a few albums, haven't you? And then you went quiet, and now you're about to do a new album because I've been following you on Facebook. There's a new album coming out very soon. So just tell me a little bit about this new album. When's it going to be released?
Well, it's soon as relative with COVID and everything that went on, and various members having a couple of health issues and whatnot. It's kind of sidelined it. The songs are written and drums are done, but the rest of it has been taking time. And then with this year being our 40th anniversary, we're focused on doing some live shows, and so the record's still in the works. It's going to happen. Also, because Jason's not here, we're signing with his record label, and so rather than put it out on our own and distributing through Pure Steel like we did in the past, it's going to come out on an actual label. And we're also negotiating to re-release our entire catalog, remixed and remastered. So that, it's good news, but it delayed the process a bit.
Right, so you're still going to be working with Pure Steel, and is that something that's completely gone now? Is that something?
We still have a good relationship with them, but it's more of a handshake kind of thing. And once we sign with Sound City Records, that'll be exclusive. Although we just did a licensing deal with Lost and Found Records out of Salt Lake City or somewhere in the West. And they're going to do a limited run reissue of Don't Meddle with Evil and push it in Japan for us.
Well, excellent. I think I remember Lost and Found Records. Were they did they have a German label? Was he a German label as well as?
I'm not sure. I don't know. This guy's somewhere in the United States.
Right. I think they had some hardcore bands back in the day, if I remember right, Lost and Found Records.
There's about, if you Google it, there's about 30 Lost and Found records pop up.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
I called him. I was trying to get in touch with this guy, Brian, that wants to do the Don't Meddle with Evil. And I had no idea. I called this place and they had a really bad phone connection. And I kept asking, is this Lost and Found Records? Can I speak with Brian? And then it would go on static. And I'm like, okay, great. So I tried like 3 or 4 times in the next day or two. Finally, I got a good connection, and that guy let me know it wasn't the same one, and I better stop calling.
Okay, then. So what's the current lineup for you guys? And you've got Jason on drums. Jason's only standing in. There's yourself, Brian, and George. With the other two guys, the two guitarists.
TJ Richardson right here.
Hi,
and
TJ.
Ben Harmon right here.
Hello.
Okay, Gag. So as a guitarist, what bands was you in before Halloween?
So ironically, me and Brian were in a couple different side projects, an acoustic project, and we had another heavier band that we were in prior. And I guess, when this door opened, it just kind of made sense.
It was ass, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
TJ was in Ass with me, and Ben is in my. I'm in a Scorpions tribute also, so it's like a big jigsaw puzzle of.
Yeah.
I thought you said somebody was in my.
Interesting. So you guys actually didn't record any albums with other bands, and Ben and TJ. You never did any band albums at all.
We did a CD with Ass.
Yeah, we did. And I have another project that I'm a part of called Salvation Zen. We did some recordings for that too. But prior to joining, it was only Ass. And I think we did a couple acoustic recordings together too, which is really actually turned out better than I thought it was going to. My first go around of recording real acoustics and everything,
Definitely check out Salvation Zen stuff. It'll blow your mind.
I'll YouTube it for definite.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Hey,
and
you're welcome.
the Ass stuff is on YouTube too. If you go to my YouTube channel, I can send you a link in Messenger.
Yeah, thanks.
There's Halloween, there's Acoustic Hell, there's the Zoo, which is our Scorpions project, and Ass. And
a lot of cool live videos.
A lot of live Halloween stuff, a lot of really cool videos on my page.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm going to ask you about influences then. We're going to start with you, Brian, vocally. Who's your influences? Who's inspired you?
Well, my influences and my favorite vocalists are different.
Right, okay.
Robert Plant was my original influence, and Tommy James from Tommy James and the Shondells. That's who I grew up listening to. And then when my neighbor started blasting Black Sabbath and Deep Purple across the backyard, I quickly became an Ozzy fan. But ironically, my favorite vocalists are Paul Stanley, Klaus Meine from Scorpions, and Rob Halford.
Yeah, the god. Excellent. So then, TJ, who's your influences as a guitar player? Who's inspired you?
So I'm really into the Shrapnel era stuff. So I like Jason Becker and Marty Friedman and Yngwie Malmsteen. But because I'm a little younger, that was a little bit after my time, or before my time.
Yeah, he was born the year we released No One Gets Out.
Yeah. I'm really into Jeff Loomis and Chris Broderick. I'm actually wearing an Obscura shirt. I love these guys, just stuff like that, just really technical driven guitar stuff. I'm really into.
That's kind of how TJ and I met. I found him on a Craigslist ad that he put up, or did I put the ad up? I think I put the ad up. I was looking for a guitar player.
Yeah.
And I listed
Nevermore.
Nevermore in my description because I wanted to cover The River Dragon Has Come. And he answered the ad, and we were talking for, a couple of months back and forth about, our influences and what we wanted to do. And the band already existed before he joined. We were called Massive Heart Attack, and we shortened it, and it became Ass, kind of as a joke. And then we had it was an acronym. Every show we changed the name of the band. But anyway, after 2 or 3 months talking to each other, we found out that we lived 4 blocks away from each other.
Walking distance.
Walking distance.
Yeah.
And all this time we've been talking, had no idea.
Yeah, Nevermore, a good band. I used to be real good friends with those guys. Rest in peace, Roral. Yeah. I'll tell you another band. As soon as you're into the Shrapnel stuff, TJ, what about Apocrypha? You need to hear those guys.
I've never heard of them before.
Oh, dude, check out 3 albums on Shrapnel. You're gonna fucking shit yourself when you hear the guitar in.
I have their stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
So what about now, man? I can listen to some new stuff. I can't wait.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Ben? What was inspired you as a guitarist?
So I was always really into people with really strong riff writing skills. So I've always been into the kind of prog rock stuff. So Tool is my favorite band. I also really like Nevermore because they have those crushing riffs in there.
Yeah.
A lot of the '90s, dark stuff. 9 Inch Nails I've been listening to a lot lately.
Those guys rule.
Yeah. So a lot of that stuff has really influenced me as a guitar player. So a really big focus on kind of the melodic stuff. Trying to combine the melodic, the technical, and also just like brutal crushing riffs into one is it's a balancing act, but it's a fun one to participate.
Interesting.
It's
What
kind
about
of cool. It's kind of cool how they fit into the band, because when we started out originally with George and myself and Rick and Bill, all of our influences came from all over the place. Like George was big into the Who, Rick was into Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen. Bill White was like into a lot of jazz drummers, and I grew up going to Broadway shows. Like I loved like Jesus Christ Superstar and Godspell because I lived near New York City. So all of the influences were different. And so when you listen to our music, it doesn't sound like a bunch of other bands. It sounds like a collection of different influences. So when we ended up years later getting these guys, because their influences are so different, it works, it fits.
Okay, what about you, George? Bass players, who's inspired you? Obviously, Paul Stanley. Sorry, Gene Simmons. Sorry.
You know, I like and I'm inspired by different bass players for different reasons and styles. At an early age, it was James Jameson, who is a bass player for the Motown studio band, the Funk Brothers. And then on the other aspect, you know, I like other bass players like John Paul Jones, because he's just such a pocket player with Bonham. Then there's John Entwistle, amazing bass player. In the later years, some Jimmy Bain from Dio. I always loved the way he played. He kept a solid pocket. You know, for me, the type of playing, and Brian's the one that pulled it out on me. Less is more. I would rather ride a note and just fill up that whole pocket of air with riding a single note without doing a bunch of runs. The bass players that play for the song and not themselves are the ones that inspire me.
Right. Okay. So how would you describe your music? I mean, to me, it's American power metal. It can't be classed as anything else. Do you agree?
Yeah, I guess for being in the band, it's really hard to put a finger on it, because to me, I can't think of other stuff that's like similar. I think we're just a heavy metal band. I don't know how to.
Yeah, not only did it seem different, but it's evolved along the way, and we've gotten both praise and flack for that, because you know, when we first started out, we did Don't Meddle with Evil and Victims of the Night. Again, Rick's influences were a lot of Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen, and obviously with the stage show and whatnot, elements of Alice Cooper creeped in. And then when Bill and Rick left the band, we ended up with a guy named Billy Gray, and he was very blues oriented.
Kind of like a Zakk Wylde.
Yeah, like a Zakk Wylde, exactly. A lot of wah pedal and whatnot. So that changed the sound, and that like took us in another direction. And then him and Tommy Stewart, who ended up in Godsmack and a bunch of other bands, when they left the band, we were back to the drawing board, and we got this drummer that was kind of top 40 jazz kind of guy. In fact, when he came over and auditioned, we laughed because he brought over this drum kit that was all rototoms, and it had like dusty bras and underwear from girls that had thrown stuff up on stage at his top 40 show. And when we found out who he was, we knew the band that he played for. It was like the house band at one of the clubs that we would go and do all ages shows at. And we looked at each other and we're like, we had auditioned like 6 drummers that day. We were exhausted. And then this guy shows up with a rototom kit, and we're like,
almost didn't take the audition.
Yeah, we almost told him not to even bother setting up the drums because we had no hope that it was going to go well. And then he played and blew us away. So he ended up playing drums, and after he left us, he went on to play in Sponge. I don't know if you know them.
Yeah.
But then the 2 guitar players that came in after that were influenced by Slayer and Obituary. And so that took us to a whole other level, but we didn't want to abandon our roots. So we've kind of just been like this big melting pot of everything we started out with and just continued to grow and explore. And some fans, you know, they see you one way and they want you to stay that way. In fact, playing here in Germany, the first time 19 years ago, we came and played the Keep It True festival like we're doing tomorrow. And, you know, we veered off from the Don't Meddle stuff because the No One Gets Out album had been like the most recent one, and those songs were great. You know, we
Yeah,
loved
great album. Great album.
and so we played a couple of those songs, and half the crowd was like, "What are they doing?" You know, like they thought we lost our identity, and it took them a few years to realize that that was part of our identity.
Okay. I mean, do you ever see it? Do you ever see anything of the old band members?
I'm sorry.
Do you ever see anything of the old band members?
Once in a while, George and I went down when Rick turned 50 years old. He lives in Atlanta, Georgia now, which is like a 14-hour drive from where we're at. And we went down and we did a mini Halloween original reunion. We tried to get Bill White to come with us, but he didn't. So Rick's family knew that we were coming down to surprise him. So Rick's stepson, Dakota, learned a handful of the Halloween songs on drums. And the premise of this was that Rick, with his cover band, they were going to resurrect a few of the old Halloween songs, and their singer was going to sing them and their bass player was going to play them. And so when they got to that part of the set, Rick's wife brought us from around the wall, and we walked up on stage. And
actually, they were doing a free song, and the part where the bass breaks
yeah,
down.
yeah.
The bass player walked off stage, handed me his bass, and when the bass came back out, and I came out, and
During Rick's
stood there.
solo.
Yeah, Rick, he was just he wasn't sure what was going on.
Because all of a sudden there's George on stage with him, and then I came out and we did, I don't know,
About
3 or 4
seven
songs.
or- no,
Was
there
it
were
that
like
many?
seven.
Wow.
Yeah, we did.
There's video of that too on my YouTube page.
I'm
What a
gonna
nice
check out.
What a
check
nice
out.
place. Pretty good.
I mean, I look at your first album. I've got all your albums. Don't Meddle with Evil. I mean, the image back then was kind of like a Motley Crue, kind of Too Fast for Love, but it was certainly not the same style of music.
No, and that wasn't. We weren't trying to be like them. In fact, we didn't know what they looked like. The fact that my hair was blonde and everybody else had black hair in the band was just a coincidence. My hair ended up blonde because my ex-wife went to beautician school and wouldn't quit messing with my hair. So it went from blonde streaks to the next thing I know, I looked like a light bulb. and then people kept trying to get me to go on Rod Stewart lookalike talk shows.
You can't, Brian, you kind of looked across between Lizzie Borden and Sebastian Bach when he was in Mad Max. In Madam X, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good album, and like he did No One Gets Out. That was such a vast improvement. No disrespect, it went so heavy, and I was just like, whoa, this album's fucking awesome. This is like, whoa, this is cool shit.
We really loved the songs on Don't Meddle with Evil, but we wish the production had been better. We did an interview earlier today, and we talked about how Don't Meddle was recorded twice, and we just, both times, we didn't really have the budget to go and properly do it. The second time we borrowed money from George's family and went into a studio that had not only had never done a heavy metal band, had never done a rock and roll band.
It was
the studio, yeah, they did gospel, you know, like church choirs and stuff. That's the only thing they had ever done. So when we came in there looking like we looked and sounding like we sounded, they didn't know what the hell was going on. So
he did pretty well.
He did well. I mean, but it was a big experiment. And the fact that people will spend hundreds of dollars to find an original copy of that album just blows my mind, because, you know, I have trouble listening to it myself.
I've actually got the original cover of that. I've actually got the original CD, and I think the production's excellent.
I've seen one on eBay for like $350.
I love all the songs. I just wish it sounded, you know, like you see the modern technology now and you're like, oh man, if it sounded like this, you know, No One Gets Out was, like you said, a vast improvement. And a lot of that was the technology, you know, it was easier to get that heavy sound, you know.
That Don't Meddle with Evil album is almost a live album. we had 30 hours from beginning to end. We had a 30-hour block to do the record and
Not just to record it, everything.
mix everything.
We recorded it, mixed it, mastered it in 30 hours. That was how much money we had.
But what we ended up, when we went in, we used to rehearse every single day. We lived together, and as soon as the clock started, as soon as the last mic was set on drums, and we played all of the tracks except for the lead, the guitar solos, and the vocals. Everything else was done live, right there on the spot. It was like a rehearsal, what you would do at a rehearsal, but Rick didn't add all of the riffs. You know, he came back and put those in after. So that was almost essentially a live recording, you know. But when we ended up, see, we actually recorded it twice. He could tell you about the first time we recorded that. The one that was released was actually our second attempt at recording Dope Metal Was Evil.
And when we went into, we were told there was a guy that was, a big talker around Detroit that supposedly was some guy that had worked with Kiss as a producer. And so when we went in there, we thought we had a professional coming in there to, crack the whip and make sure that everything went the way it was supposed to go. And the dude never showed up. So we went in there with the clock, the stopwatch ticking, 30 hours to get it done. We had no idea what we were doing. The engineers didn't know how to get our sound. So it was definitely
the first attempt was it wasn't quite there. After listening to it, we were hoping that we'd be able to pull it off better. Where was it? It was that was the place where we stayed in the tent.
Yeah, that was some old abandoned elementary school that some guy put a studio in, and one of the classrooms was the engineer booth, and another classroom was the studio part, and then we were doing vocal effects in the hallway all the way down and around the corner and pulling all kinds of jokes. But it was we really didn't know what we were doing there. So when we went into the disc to do the actual album, luckily we had a little better of an idea because, like I said, we were surprised when the producer didn't show up. Anyway, let's let these guys talk some more too, because
All right.
I'm telling you, this show tomorrow, unless something happens, we've got the most solid lineup that we've had in a while. These guys work really well together as a guitar team, and we're lucky to have Jason on board. He's Ted Nugent's drummer, and we've known him for a long time, and it's going to be a really good show. So I'm excited for these guys to play this festival.
So Ben and TJ, how long have you been in the band then?
You go ahead. All right. So I've been in the band I think a little over 11 years. It was 2012. Actually, the Terrortory release show was my first show with you guys. And
then the tour.
And then the tour right after. I was like 22.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. None at all.
Well, you got him. He's like you were supposed to play his first show and backed out a couple of days beforehand. So then he had the pressure of having to pull all the way.
Well, that's what that felt like, by the way.
Yeah. Which segues into so I've been in the band since 2017, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And that was actually through I was telling the story earlier today. Is a friend of mine followed Halloween on Facebook, and they put out an open call because they weren't looking for a permanent member; they were looking for a fill-in guy, just to take over some of the lead guitar parts for a couple of gigs. And that was Don Gurrier, who I was kind of like, just like replace for a couple of gigs, whatever. But then Don Gurrier just kind of ended up kind of fading away. He was kind of got occupied with his other stuff. So then I just I was stuck, and ever since
we wouldn't let him go.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of cool too because we're both shredders, but we're like two different kinds of shredders, and we complement each other very well. It's actually really, really cool. I'm really looking forward to kind of showcasing that tomorrow too.
So when you guys play live, do you do what Judas Priest do? Like KK will play one part of a solo, then you'll switch to the guitarist for Glenn Tipton. You would kind of same sort of ideas.
We've actually been toying with that idea, and it'll probably be not tomorrow, but it'll probably be the next show coming up. We'll end up actually doing like trade-offs for some of the older songs.
I think there's one song that they're going to trade off on teaser tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think I got a couple solos in the beginning of the set, and
there's some harmonies here.
Like, a couple harmonies too, which is kind of cool. But yeah.
See, when TJ came into the band, Don Gurrier was our lead guitar player. And TJ is an amazing guitar player, just a phenomenal shredder. And he played the entire 2012 tour just as a rhythm guitar player. And I'm watching him knowing, oh my God, like if people could see what he can do, shit, even without him playing solos, every single band that opened for us on the 2012 tour, which was a lot of shows in Germany, Belgium, and we went to the Netherlands. Every single opening band tried to steal him from us, and he was only playing rhythm guitar. So that just tells you the charisma and the talent.
So what guitars do you actually make?
That's all it was.
So what guitars do you actually play between you both of you? What make of guitars? What's your?
So I am a 7-string guy because I'm a huge Nevermore fan. So my 7 strings, I play Ormsby Guitars. They're a company out in Australia, absolutely amazing company. But for this band, because it's a 6-string band, I'm really partial to Jackson guitars. And Brandon Ellis is actually becoming one of my favorite guitar players. So I have his signature, Kelly, that I'm playing on stage tomorrow, and that's kind of my new baby.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for me, so I play Electra guitars. So, they made those Les Paul copies back in the 70s, but people don't know this, but in the early 2010s, they were resurrected by Ben Chaffin. But he used to build Dean guitars, but he resurrected Electra, the company, and started rebuilding them. And so I was looking for a Les Paul that had some of the design flaws of the original Les Paul fix, like a cutaway kind of, so you don't have the bulky neck joint. And a volute so that the headstock doesn't snap off. And Electra had that without ruining the look because sometimes like guitar companies will try and copy the Les Paul, but then they'll make it like really pointy, stuff like that. So I wanted something that had like the traditional look. And so they were the company that was doing that. And I bought one guitar and then I bought 3 more of them. So I play Electra Omegas, and that's been my guitar of choice for the past almost 10 years now.
Awesome.
And then in terms of amplifiers, I usually play into a diesel and into an EVH cabinet.
I was PV amps for a while, but then I kind of went to the dark side. Now I'm using like a Helix, and I'm just going direct. I got like a PV amp on there that I use, and all my effects are on there. Kind of keeps things easy, especially for shows like this where I can just kind of plug into the PA and get my sound instantly. So
awesome.
George's Ampeg guy.
Ampeg. They're the only amp that are larger than most refrigerators.
And when we rehearse, he uses 2 of them.
yes.
And his volume's twice as loud as everybody else. and I just that's why you can't hear. And I just walk in with my Shure or my Sennheiser microphone and go, where do I plug this in?
So I'm going to ask you now then, out of all the albums you've done with the band, which one's your favorite? Do you have a favorite album, or all of you? Which is your favorite album?
Man, that's hard.
Well, I don't like any of them.
Yeah. Well, their opinion matters more than ours.
I think that's hard. I don't think my mother loved me more than she loved my brother Ben, but it's really, really hard. I would have to say probably Don't Mess with Evil, because that album changed my life. It literally took my life in a different direction. I mean, if it hadn't been for that album, I probably would be somebody's plumber or garbage man, So, but that album was constructed out of hope and a dream. It was just it's hard to put words on, so I would just have to say it'd be Don't Meddle with Evil.
Okay, what about you, Brian?
For the same reasons, I would say Don't Meddle with Evil, but currently the badass remix that TJ did of the Terrortory album, I can't stop. Like I'll throw it on for a second I drive cars for a living. So I'll throw it on and think I just want to hear one song and I can't turn it off.
He's a carjacker.
Carjacker.
Do you know something?
I'll throw the first song on, and the next thing I know, I've listened to the whole album because I can't turn it off.
I'm gonna have to say to you, Territory is the only album I don't own by you guys. I don't actually have the CD. Do you have any on tour with you on this tour?
No, we're actually sold out of Terrortory, and the funny thing about that is that the original mix, when we recorded that album, and part of the reason that we were actually looking for guitar players when Ben joined up was because Donnie Allen, who was our guitar player on No One Gets Out, one of them, and on Horror Fire, he had a liver transplant and was really sick right in the middle of us recording that album. So we started looking for, well-known guitar players from our area. Chuck Stoll from the band Damien from Toledo plays lead guitar on 2 of those songs. Don Gurrier plays on a couple of the songs.
Actually, no, he talked me into playing guitar on a couple of songs.
George plays solo on
a couple.
In fact, Caught in the Webs is only me, George, and Rob, our drummer, at the time. Like, there's not even a guitar player on that song. Well, Andy Furta did
I think I played the guitar on that as well.
Yeah. Yep.
What about you, Ben and TJ? What's your favorite albums that they've done, the band?
All right, so this it's tough for me too because I'm like really into No One Gets Out because I like just the overall heaviness of it. But I'd have to say Territory because I got to work personally with it. I don't know, man. I mean, when you and I first met, it was Head Against the Wall that made me just like, oh my God, this guy's vocals are insane. So I was like, I'm partial to that too, but I would say Terrortory just because there's so many good songs, like Her Ghost Comes Out to Play and
I Lie Awake.
I Lie Awake, Say Your Prayers.
Yeah.
Images quite horrible.
Images, that was the first one. When you played me the remix of Images, I got chills. I got chills right now thinking about the first time I heard the remix.
Actually, it was funny. Our last rehearsal before coming here, we were messing around. Yeah, we were messing around playing one of the songs. As soon as I got done, I went into the main riff for Images, and he's like, "Don't do that, man. Don't do that."
Oh, and the reason you don't have that album is, I was starting to say, because of Donnie's injury and all the trying to find guitar players to play on it. Rob, our drummer, was doing the mixes on that.
He played on some guitar on there.
Yeah, Rob played a little bit of lead guitar too. So it was kind of like a patchwork, we were trying to just throw it together and hurry and get the album done.
Yep.
And anyway, Rob kind of over tweaked, like he just kept on working on it. He wasn't happy with the mix and he'd work on it some more. And Pure Steel wanted the record, and because it had been a long time, just like with the current one, it had been a while, and they wanted to put the record out. So we ended up sending it, and it wasn't right. And like the mix that's on the actual CD, what TJ did to it it's like a different record. Like this again, just like Don't Meddle with Evil. The songs are really good, but the mix that TJ did, sorry, I don't mean to blow your head up, but it's so good. So now when we go to repress it, we're going to use TJ's mix.
I need to get a signed copy from you guys, please. Definitely.
All of the remixes of that album are on my YouTube channel.
Oh, awesome.
Lyric videos. You can find it, all those songs.
It's kind of funny too, because I don't listen to stuff I do, like mixes and everything. I don't listen to it after I do it just because I just don't want to hear it because I've heard it so many times. But on the way to rehearsal one time, I actually just kind of came on YouTube or whatever, and I was just like, I did this? Really? This is me? Like, what? Because it sounds very much like, because when you guys were recording that, when was it? Like 2008, 2009 you guys started?
Yeah, probably. Actually, I think probably 2007.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's like the mix reminds me a lot of like the Andy Sneap style mix, you know,
And that's
from
like
that era.
one of his favorite producers.
Yeah, so it was like it was a fun project to work on.
Also, the remix is on Spotify. Yeah, so
Killer
So,
album.
so what songs are you going to be playing tomorrow then? Just before we wrap up.
well, Ben, what was Ben's favorite album?
Oh, yeah, Ben. Sorry, what's your favorite album?
I'm not gonna let him get away with it. I want to know.
Pretty solidly, No One Gets Out. I think it hits the sweet spot of like the melodic riffs, but the heaviness too. While also having, you know, production that allows you to really experience the song the way that I feel like these guys intended. So yeah, that's pretty solid for me, especially because I used to have to routinely make a long drive to St. Louis, and I just put that CD on in the car. And it was also good because even before I had to learn all those songs, I just enjoyed listening to it.
A lot of mathematical puzzles on that album.
Yeah, exactly. I really like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like playing with rhythm a lot in my own personal music as well. And so like, yeah, there's a lot of like rhythmic trickery. I'm sure you can hear in certain songs where there's a lot of playing around with that. So I really enjoyed that.